Hello and welcome to the final episode of Season 13 of the RG10 Podcast and the final episode of 2024. Now, I've been lucky enough to cover some great stories and speak to some amazing people over the past 12 months, and this episode is going to recap some of those moments. So kick back, grab yourself a Christmas cracker and a glass of eggnog, and let us reminisce together. We kicked off 2024 with Season 11 of the podcast and the first ever Great RG10 quiz. It featured guest stars from all over the area, hitting you, dear listener, with a variety of locally themed posers, such as this one from Gemma at the Big Plant Nursery.
So we would like to know which of these winter flowering plants is known for its scent. A. Skimmia, B. Hellebores, or C. Sarcococca.
So that was episode 1 of season 11, and episode 2 featured the answers.
It was C. Sarcococca.
And I presume you can get all of those here at the nursery.
You can indeed.
Staying with season 11, and episode 4 told the story of an epic adventure. Caroline Haig, Nikki Kelly and Rachel Smiley, also known as Team Excelsioar, based out of Eton Excelsioar Rowing Club and sponsored by Val Wyatt Marine in Wargrave, took on the world's toughest row, a 3,000-mile journey from the Canary Islands to Antigua and Barbuda. So what was it like out there on the ocean? I spoke to Rachel to find out.
We had hugely varied conditions. We only really had extremes. So we either had flat, calm, slogging it out for every stroke, and you would look across, either side of you and the Atlantic would be like a pond. Or we had big conditions and strong winds where you're kind of hanging on for dear life. The slog is definitely worse because it's slow. Yeah. The hanging on for dear life is really tiring because you've always got to have your wits about you and you're constantly being kind of hyper vigilant and hyper focused. But you're looking at it and thinking, well, I'm getting 3 knots and I know that that's X number of miles a day. A 3 knot average is about 70 miles a day, which is really nice. And you know that you're making good progress.
Season 12 began at Twyford Tennis Club and a plea for help. They were desperately trying to crowdfund to modernise their facilities, some of which are beginning to look a bit sorry for themselves. I spoke to ladies captain Louise Tippy.
The difficulties we're facing are we are at maximum capacity at the moment. We only have 3 courts and we're oversubscribed with lots of tennis coaching. We have clashes with matches and with coaching, and we really need another court. We also have very poor old floodlights, and they desperately need upgrading. And so we're at maximum capacity and we cannot involve as many children and as many adults and welcome them into, to have them enjoy tennis and also enjoy Twyford and our club as a community as a whole. So we really need your help with crowdfunding.
Now, Twyford Tennis Club did taste success this year. They won the Community Group of the Year at the Twyford Together Community Awards, which featured in Season 11, Episode 3. The awards celebrate those individuals, groups and businesses who go the extra mile in our village. Someone else who tasted success was Elowyn Mears, joint winner of Young Achiever of the Year.
I'm basically a British para swimmer, and in swimming there's between S1 and S15. And typically S1 to S10 are physical disabilities. S1 would be more like no limbs to quite a severe disability, whilst S10 would be mild disabilities. And I fall in the S6, which is typically for dwarfs, as well as paralysed people. This year I had county championships, which was Berkshire and Buckinghamshire. I walked away with 3 golds, 3 silvers and a bronze for the para category. And that was across 2 weekends. Literally 3 days later, I was on the plane to Aberdeen, and then at Aberdeen Internationals, I won 2 international golds, which was a lifelong dream to win an international gold, let alone 2. And that was in the 50 breaststroke, and that was across a 5-day period of intense racing against countries from all over the world. And it's almost an understatement to call it an experience, because there's not enough words that I can use to actually sum it up.
Finally, we come to an epic adventure of, frankly, ludicrous proportions. When I spoke to them, Joshua Smith and Jack Pitcher were at the start of a 4,000-kilometre run across Australia to raise money for ARC, a Wokingham-based charity providing counselling services.
So the challenge now is to hopefully become the fastest ever Brits to run across Australia. The record is currently held by a woman called Nikki Love, who achieved it in 77 days. And yeah, we're going to set out to try and beat her record. We'd love to get 60 to 65 days. We're 5-6 days into our run. We're getting fitter, we're getting stronger, we're getting used to the heat now. We're running from 9 a.m. till 6 p.m. Long old days. But yeah, we're getting used to it, and we're that's the record. We want to become the fastest Brits to ever run across Australia.
And what is that distance? It's going from Perth to Sydney, isn't it? What's the distance? How far are you covering each day at the moment?
So the distance from Perth to Sydney is about 4,000 k. So 4,000 km, which is about 2,500 miles. And we're running about 54 to 57 Ks a day. We want to crank that up.
That's over a marathon every day, essentially, at the moment, isn't it?
Yeah, about 35 miles a day, 34, 35 miles a day. But, the weather out here is just so hot as well. You wake up at 8:30 in the morning and, it's boiling hot, not a cloud in the sky. So, yeah, I'm ginger as well, so it's not looking good for me.
And an update on this story, I can reveal that Joshua and Jack have just completed the 4,000 kilometres. It took them 61 days and they've beaten the record by over 2 weeks. Thanks for listening to the RG10 Podcast, Tale of 2024. The show will be back early next year, so in the meantime, do let us know if you have any stories that you think we may be interested in covering. You can find out how to get in touch in the show notes. Merry Christmas and Happy New Year.